Samsung's Q-Series soundbar system has been the all-around home theater solution to beat for several years now. In fact, the Samsung Q, you name it, has won our best soundbar category since 2021, starting with the Q990A. 2024 brings us yet another new letter in the alphabet, the Q990D, and this 11.1.4 channel all-inclusive Dolby Atmos home theater bar still comes with a wireless subwoofer and 2 wireless surrounds. So what's new? Perhaps it's easier to begin with what isn't new, starting with the 990D's physical appearance, construction, and its internal driver complement. They all remain unchanged from the previous generation, the 990C. You still get Dolby Atmos and DTS:X support, and you can even listen to Dolby Atmos wirelessly when the 990D is paired with a compatible Samsung TV, which cuts down on cable clutter. Q-SYMPHONY, which has been around since the Q990A, it's still here too. This allows users with compatible Samsung TVs to use the TV's internal speakers with the bar for a more immersive experience. And the system can also be calibrated to sound its best in any room using Samsung's SPACEFIT Sound Pro. So what's different and new on the Samsung in 2024? Well, for starters, you can now use the included surround speakers as quasi-left and right main, aka front speakers, for improved stereo imaging when listening to music. This feature is accessible via the Samsung SmartThings app, where you also can manually control the volume levels of the system's speakers for greater immersion or dialogue focus. And speaking of dialogue, the 990D now has 2 voice enhancement features: voice enhancement and active voice amplifier, similar to Samsung's adaptive sound. Active voice amplifier optimizes the dialogue and amplifies it for improved intelligibility. HDMI 2.1, it's another new feature that has been added to the Q990D. You still get 3 HDMI ports with 1 output that supports ARC, eARC, and 2 inputs, except now all of them support signals up to 8K 60 and 4K 120 thanks to 2.1. This will for sure excite all you gamers out there. There is also an optical audio input for those of you who may have older TVs that, lack HDMI support. As for the rest, the 990D still has Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, and AirPlay support. It still works with popular smart home platforms such as Google and Alexa, and has support for Chromecast, Spotify Connect, and Tidal Connect. Overall, this is a fairly easy bar to set up. I placed the main bar on our bench below Samsung's 98-inch Q990D QLED, which we just reviewed, and the surrounds were positioned on stands near the back of our room per Samsung's recommendations. Now, I placed the wireless sub to the right of the bar in order to improve the coherence between the bar and the subwoofer, but you can always move the sub around the room if there is a spot that you know is going to work better for bass. Now, there are a few different ways to control the Q990D. Of course, you can always use the included remote. If you own a compatible Samsung TV, your TV's remote can also be used to control the bar. But in my opinion, the best way to get this system up and running is by ditching your remotes and downloading the Samsung SmartThings app to your phone or device. Once you've installed the app, you'll find control over the bar's higher level functions and just easier access to more basic adjustments like tone controls and speaker levels. Overall, the app is good. It's easy to use and it's easy to understand, which makes experimenting with the 990D's various settings a breeze, especially if you don't already own a Samsung TV. Before we get into the bar's sound profiles, Samsung does include an auto room calibration of sorts in their SPACEFIT Sound Pro Plus. Where most auto calibration tools require you to walk through a set of procedures, SPACEFIT doesn't. You can toggle the settings on or off and see for yourself if there's really any benefit. In my test, SPACEFIT effect was subtle to maybe even unnoticeable. Depending on the 990D's other settings and even your room layout to a degree, it may cancel out any effects SPACEFIT may have. When toggling SPACEFIT on and off, I didn't always notice a change, even though one could be measured. Again, provided I didn't have other settings like bass or vocal enhancements also turned on. SPACEFIT, it works, or at least it attempts to maybe address some bass peaks. Just don't expect Odyssey or Dirac level changes to your sound. The Q990D, it comes with several sound profiles, making finding a sound that you like pretty easy. Standard is the bar's default profile. If you're a Harman fan, this profile closely follows the famed Harman curve, which can be seen here in the measurement, showing a slight boost in the bass, a mostly linear or neutral mid-range with a subtle taper in the highs. Whether you're listening to music or movies, the standard profile, it's very even keel and allows many mixes to sound their best. While the standard profile is going to appeal most to traditional audiophiles, there are more exciting or dynamic profiles to choose from. The surround profile raises the treble of the 990D just a bit, leaving the mid-range and bass essentially unchanged. This rise in treble injects air and spaciousness into instruments and vocals without causing the bar to sound outright bright. And this profile also appears to dial up the surrounds just a touch, solidifying the handoff between the bar and its surrounds for a smoother front-to-back transition, which I don't have to tell you, can make your experience watching films like Top Gun Maverick or Transformers Dark of the Moon more seamless, especially when sounds on screen travel from front to back. For the most dynamic and arguably most cinematic-like experience, I recommend using the Adaptive Sound Plus profile. The adaptive profile raises the treble just a touch more than the others and historically works very well on Q-Series bars. Just be careful to note that as you turn on features like voice enhancement or active voice amplifier inside the app, you may discover that you prefer the fuller sound of the standard profile with these features turned on, because I know I did. Voice enhancement and, to a small degree, active voice amplifier, they reduce the subwoofer's bass output, and since Adaptive Sound Plus already has a boosted treble response on its own, adding more while simultaneously curbing the bass may be too much of a good thing. The natural roll-off of the standard profile reacts better to the presence of the voice enhancements while still maintaining a very well-balanced bass presence. But whenever I'm reviewing a soundbar, I really like to play test scenes that I know will highlight a product's performance, good and bad. Some of my go-to test scenes are from Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, Top Gun Maverick, and Transformers Dark of the Moon. These films prove just how epic the 990D's surround sound performance really is. Take the climactic battle in Dark of the Moon, beginning with the transport of Cybertron. The battle sounded fantastic on the Samsung. There was excellent overhead coverage that was seamless from the front of our room to the back. The pulses of, let's call them energy, that radiate through the planet's outer atmosphere were very noticeable due to the impact through the sub. There was also a lot of detail that flowed front to back and then overhead. When Prime goes into full attack mode, you can hear every bullet, rocket, and even the shouted dialogue, thanks to the bar's exacting detail and just terrific placement of sound. Considering the size of our room, I was very impressed by how the sound effects appeared in the large empty spaces between the bar and the surround speakers, which in our room spanned as much as 18 feet. And Ghostbusters and Top Gun, they also sounded terrific, though Top Gun, at least for me, definitely sounded better in the standard profile than the adaptive sound. Top Gun's mix benefited from the standard profile's higher bass output. Regardless, both films sounded massive in scale, and the 990D had zero issues recreating the true-to-life dynamics befitting these two Hollywood blockbusters. And using Q-Symphony with the 990D not only worked, it was effective. Unlike Sony's S-Center Sync, Q-Symphony is wireless, which is nice. Samsung doesn't appear to have the same timbre issues Sony does when trying to blend the sound of their TV speakers with their Q-Series bars. Now, admittedly, I don't believe Samsung is attempting to use their TV's built-in speakers, quite as heavily as Sony, but still, if you're going to offer up a feature like S-Center Sync, or in this case, Q-Symphony, I think you better make sure it works, and to that end, Samsung delivers. The presence of Q-Symphony adds a little bit more scale, especially height, to the bar's sound, and it opens up the center image, though I wouldn't go so far as to say that it improves intelligibility. Speaking of intelligibility, on its own, the Samsung is plenty intelligible for me. However, there were some shows that Christy requested the dialogue aids be turned on. For example, House of the Dragon and Anthony Hopkins just begging to be canceled. New series, Those Who Are About to Die, where the actors routinely whisper and just mumble speak their way through every scene, were often helped by having one or more of the dialogue aids turned on. The best thing about the Q990D, like the C and the B before it, is having more than one option to bring dialogue to the forefront. Now, I still think Samsung needs to add a low, medium, and high setting to its dialogue enhancements, since neither is, a perfect one-size-fits-all solution. Now, one of the new features with the Q990D is the ability to use the included surround speakers as right and left main speakers in conjunction with the main bar for a more traditional or spacious stereo image. This is a two-step process. First, you must place the surrounds to the right and left of the main bar, then set the surround speaker mode to front inside the SmartThings app. The effect front mode has on music is immediately noticeable and no doubt is going to help curb one of the main arguments against soundbars, which is that they just suck for music. While not a strict two-channel experience, the main bar is still very much in use. The presence of surrounds as left and right mains, it opens things up, creating a more hi-fi-like Phantom Center image free of the main bar. In front mode, well-recorded music like Halsey's debut album had improved scale both right to left and floor to ceiling. What's even more impressive is the tonality of the system doesn't shift or change in this mode. But coherence and consistency have never really been a problem for the Q series bars. Love them or hate them, that's subjective, but give credit where credit is due. Samsung's engineers have done a remarkable job just maintaining a consistent level of tonality, detail, and quality of sound at every turn, and the 990D is just another perfect example. While I'm sure some will see front mode as little more than a gimmick, it's hard to deny that it's a value add to a system that has already proven to be a giant killer when it comes to value. That said, I'm not sure how many people will be up for moving their surround speakers to the front of their room for music and then back again for movies, especially considering the surrounds are not wireless and still require a nearby power outlet. If the surrounds on the 990D had been all new for 2024, maybe even battery powered, like say Sony's RS5 surrounds, the addition of front mode would be more effective, useful, not to mention convenient. The Samsung is already a very effective music listening device in its traditional setup and when it's placed in its surround or adaptive sound profile, so only time will really tell if this new feature is going to see widespread use. Now, I know HDMI 2.1 isn't new, but including 2.1 compatible ports on the Q990D means that gamers won't be forced to connect their consoles directly to their TVs for best results. I get it, die-hard gamers, you're still probably going to opt for the direct connection, but for everyone else, your boy included, we love the convenience of being able to connect a game console to one of the bar's two HDMI inputs. With the 990D in the signal path, I couldn't detect any difference in gaming with or without it. What I mean is that casual gamers probably aren't going to notice any change in input lag or loss in picture or sound quality by connecting their console to the 990D versus directly to their TV, at least not when using a Sony PS5 and playing games like The Last of Us 2 or even faster-paced shooters like Overwatch 2. Wrapping things up with a few comparisons, in a head-to-head battle between Sony's brand new BRAVIA Bar 9 with all of its quote optional add-ons like a Sony subwoofer and Sony surround speakers, this wasn't even close. Now, we just reviewed the Bar 9, so if you want to know more about the Sony, check out that review for all of the specifics, but for you Cliff Notes people, the Q990D buries the Sony. But against Sony's BRAVIA Theater Quad, now this is a far more exciting matchup. The $1,000 you'll save with the Samsung, it pays off when you're watching well-mixed movies. Samsung gets pretty close to matching the performance of the Quad. But when it comes to music and faux surround sound, it's the Sony all day. The Quad is just overall better and more flexible. But again, it's also more expensive. But the real question, especially for current Q990C owners, is it time to upgrade? I wouldn't. Look, both systems are great, but unless you really need HDMI 2.1 support in your soundbar, or you just want to play with the 990D's new front speaker mode, there is virtually no difference in performance or sound quality between the two models, and our own in-room measurements, well, they confirm this. Now, if you've been considering updating your Q990A or B models but can't afford the latest and greatest, I'd get the Q990C while you still can. The remaining units have been on deep discount, and I doubt they'll be around forever. Of course, if you don't mind paying a little bit more to get the latest features, I wouldn't blame you for upgrading your older A and B models all the way up to the new 990D. After all, there are some benefits that you might be ready to take advantage of. For 3 years, Samsung's Q series has been our soundbar of the year. It has consistently checked all of the boxes. It sounds great, it's easy to use, and it's a fantastic value. But for 3 years now, the changes have been incremental at best. Samsung has done little to push the boundaries and try new things, playing it safe by making minor tweaks to a product that was already pretty great. And for that reason, we're calling it a GOAT and retiring it. So congrats, Samsung. The Q series, in its current form, will have its jersey hung in the halls of greatness, but it is time for something new, something innovative and different. So let's go. So that's it. That is now what I guess is my final review of a Samsung Q series soundbar until they make some radical changes. What do you think? What do you think? Do you agree with me that it's kind of time, or are you like, whoa, dude, if it's the GOAT, let it play on? I want to know. Sound off in the comments below. And if you have any questions, or if I missed something, feel free to let me know, because you never know. It may end up in next week's Unplugged, where we're going to get Christy's thoughts on the 990D. Until then, if you like this video, please do give it a thumbs up, like, and subscribe. Go ahead, ring that bell so that you're notified when new videos come out. If you use any of the links that Christy's left for you down below, know that that's a great way that you've continued to show your support for this channel and the work that we both do here. And both of us, thank you very much for doing that. Follow me on Instagram at Recovering Audiophile, and that is it for me today. So remember, the only person who has to like the sound of your system is you. So happy listening, everybody. Thank you so much for watching. See you on the next video. Bye.